But once you hit level 5, you start getting access to like a lot of really powerful things. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
5 to 10, you can take on a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why when people say, oh, wow, these characters get some super great stuff at like level 11, 12, 13, I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for characters that are going to be pretty well outfitted by like level 6. Because
Yeah.
honestly, how often are you going to play up to those levels anyway? First thing up on our docket is a weekly Muse, as it usually is. Not all the time, but today it is. And we,
As usual.
as usual, but not as always, we have an article that we were tooling around talking about on some previous episodes, but we had some other more pressing stuff to talk about at the time. But recently, last month, D&D Beyond was purchased by Wizards of the Coast for $146 million.
Yeah.
And I think the first question that I had, Alex, don't know about you, was, wait, D&D Beyond wasn't already owned by Wizards?
Yeah, when you brought that to my attention, I was like, oh, I didn't realize D&D Beyond wasn't owned by Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, so I had to look into what was happening there, and so it turns out that they bought it from Fandom. Fandom's owned this since like 2017,
Right.
and they had gotten it from a community tool called Curse during the process of it being absorbed into Twitch. But
Yeah, Curse is a place that hosts like game mods and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So basically, before Curse gets absorbed by Twitch, Fandom comes in and snatches up D&D Beyond. And one of the reasons why we were probably under the impression that Wizards already owned it is because of how much it's integrated into Wizards and Dungeons and Dragons already, and that like most of the people that work at Wizards like are working in D&D Beyond, or the live streams will use it. They'll promote it. All of the books are available on there. So they have a very close working relationship. And
right.
but surprisingly enough, for the last 5 years or so, no, they were not actually owned by the company. It wasn't all that long ago, actually, where their Discord channel really popped off after it was announced on Critical Role to go and check it out, which, again, is the reason why a lot of us probably were under the impression that Wizards already owned it. Or I guess I should say Hasbro, because they own Wizards, so...
Right. Even though I think I saw somewhere else that Wizards is trying to get on its own again, and Hasbro is just like, nah, fam, you're staying here.
I don't know exactly how they go off on their own. Like, Hasbro doesn't really have any reason to want to let them go, or
Exactly.
turn into unless there's a contract thing behind the scenes, but good.
No, probably not.
Probably not, no. Especially when I'm seeing them do acquisitions that are going to go under the umbrella. It feels like this is just going to be a continuation onward. The one thing that a lot of people were wondering, though, of course, was, hey, so what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like, functionally, what does this change? So they did on D&D Beyond do a little bit of a Q&A about change in ownership and what it would be, mentioning that on May 18th or soon after, your D&D Beyond accounts will transfer over to Wizards of the Coast. Wizards' term of use will apply, yada yada, and that they'll update that as part of the Wizards of the Coast acquiring D&D Beyond, we will extend Wizards' term of service to cover new services. However, while they need permission to put like user content on there, they're working to ensure that the scope of the permission gives you tailored. It gives us something tailored to the goals. But it doesn't sound like you necessarily need to delete an account, or if you delete your account, your homebrew content will still stay on there. And it doesn't sound like you're going to have to start a Wizards of the account of the Coast account. You'll be able to still use your Twitch login, if you Twitch or Google account, to actually access the site. So not too much that's really going to be changing from the
Hopefully.
user end. Right. However, there is something that the TechCrunch article had mentioned that I was also thinking about, which is about like positive changes that would extend what they can do with D&D Beyond. They already kind of had a subscription model in place if you wanted to utilize it, but there's been one big point of contention for people, which is about physical books being integrated into the digital content.
Right, I think I read that too, and I was like, oh yeah, because you can't just, if you own the physical books, you don't get access to them on D&D Beyond.
And more than even that is that if you were to purchase it as a digital book, it's practically what you would pay for the physical book too.
Right,
And
which is a bit much.
It's a bit much, and a lot of people were wondering why they couldn't have like just like the SKU or something from the books that would be something you could enter into your account and log in that you have a physical copy of the book, and maybe they'd ask you to chuck like $5 or something for the digital version of it.
Yeah,
so
that would be fine. I was just thinking that like $5 for a digital copy of a book that you already own physically by the same company would be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I already have a bunch of books, and then you're saying that you can get a digital version, and I upgrade for a few dollars. Okay, great, but I shouldn't have to pay twice that so that I can
full price is kind of silly for a digital product.
For a digital product, especially when so many people coming into this were probably already familiar with having books physically in their hands. So I think that might actually help if they could put a model like that forward. A lot of people that have the physical books that didn't want to buy the digital copies could just like shell a couple dollars out, and what's it going to cost D&D Beyond to do that realistically?
Yeah, even more so is if they have that subscription model. I feel like you should offer access to the books for your subscription cost. But then if you stop subscribing, obviously you wouldn't be able to access the books anymore.
Yeah, that would almost be like how streaming services work, like the on-demand services, that kind of thing.
I think that'd be fine.
Yeah, and what they're mostly offering, like one of the big things that I see them offer for the subscriptions are either like some of the custom skins and dice for different, character sheets or for the encounter maps, stuff like that, and that you can typically, if you just have a free account, you can create 6 characters at a time on your account. If you get a subscription, though, you can have unlimited character creation. So
perfect. Just a place to put all of my characters.
Just put all of your characters on there. Every single one that you've ever made in the history of time.
I'm going to put Rexall Death Dice on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, and the great thing is that you can build all the homebrew content that would be required for him if he had special equipment, and then it will be there forever.
No, I mean, he does have 1 or 2 pieces of special equipment, but he's also 3.5, so I'd have to convert him over.
You'd have to convert him over because, yeah, D&D Beyond does not account for anything outside of 5e, really.
Yeah, plus he's also way higher than level 20 at this point, so he'd be retired in 5e.
He'd be retired?
Terms, yeah. D&D 5e only goes up to level 20. After you hit level 20, you're, like, pretty much retired.
Right.
There's not any, like, past that. There's not epic levels or prestige classes that I'm aware of.
I did see a supplemental project that they've been promoting that actually would extend it to 30.
Oh boy.
Go up to level... and I'm like, oh my god. At level 20, you're practically gods. What are you at level 30?
Yeah.
You're demigods.
That's the real meat and potatoes, a lot of people say, for D&D is low level to mid level.
Yeah.
So 1 to 5, and then 5 to, like, 9.
Yeah.
And that's where you are, 1 to 5 is where if you want to have something that feels deadly, those levels are pretty deadly, because you have to be careful or else you will die very quickly. But once you hit level 5, you start getting access to, like, a lot of really powerful things. It's 5 to 10, you can take on a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why when people say, oh, wow, these characters get some super great stuff at, like, level 11, 12, 13, I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for the I'm looking for characters that are going to be pretty well outfitted by like level 6. Because honestly, how often are you going to play up to those levels anyway?
Long-term campaigns, but also
Sure.
if you're playing a campaign or something where you start at a higher level, But
yeah, I mean, the thing about it is when they're saying, "Oh yeah, when I reach level like 14," yeah, I don't see that happen. If you're starting low, it's probably not likely going to happen. Like my character's gonna really get good if I just wait like 6 more levels. It's like one of the reasons I thought it would be great to be a College of Lore Bard was like level 6, I get some magical secrets. Other bards you have to wait till 10, so I'm just gonna do that so I can access something neat. But that was also another question about homebrew content and if that's going to transfer over, and it sounds like it will. It sounds like it will also be on the site and credited to the original creator, even if you delete your account. So,
now, can you sell homebrew content, or is it just free?
I think that's all free.
Okay.
Also, that it is not apparently owned, so to speak, by Wizards of the Coast or anything.
Oh, good. So they didn't pull a Blizzard.
Yeah.
They didn't pull all the maps you make for Warcraft 3 are now owned by, Wizards of the Blizzard.
The official statement on their frequently asked questions: will Wizards own my homebrew content created on D&D Beyond? Wizards has no intent of taking ownership over user content to put on D&D Beyond, and the terms of service will not grant us such rights. The permissions we will need for user content will relate to allowing us to operate the D&D Beyond service, including displaying that content on our site. So, that's basically, they don't own it.
Of course, I wonder if there's something in there where if they see something they really like, maybe they can use it in one of their rulebooks without permission. Who knows?
I mean, I've never heard of game companies doing something like that.
No, because generally if you send something to a game company and intent of them using it, like, hey, I have this great idea for you, they're like, hey, our legal team told us not to look at this, and thanks, but no thanks, because if we do something similar and don't credit you for it and you think it's taken from yours, you can sue us.
Yeah.
A lot of people do, so they're like, no thanks.
I've never heard of anything that was like originally a user-created mod eventually going to something like Creation Club.
Yeah.
Any content remaining on D&D Beyond service will be subject to updated terms of service, but they should not impact how you use the site or own content prior to May 18th. And I haven't really seen too many changes on the site so far, except just the simple announcement that they're going to be doing it. And hopefully this integration helps out more, because like we were saying earlier, it pretty much, for all intents and purposes, like all the Wizards property, the crew that was working over at WOTC, etc., have been using D&D Beyond basically as their digital market. Like, it's basically it.
Right. Now,
if you don't like something like this, there are other sites like Hero Forge where you could export this off if you don't want to support WotC. But I don't know why you would if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Why you'd have a problem with WotC.
I never used D&D Beyond before, really. I think I may have maybe used it once, perhaps. I'm not really sure. I don't think I've really used it before, and it was because you had to buy the digital books,
right,
if you wanted to use them on it. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I already own the books I want to use, so I'm not gonna do that.
So hopefully, especially for all the people that would have picked up very common ones like the Player's Handbook or, the GM Handbook or something like that, they'll make some kind of deal so that you can utilize it on the site. Because,
right.
I mean, for me at least, I find that it is very, I've seen digital versions of games be bad, but D&D Beyond is so streamlined in its process, especially when you're building your characters, creating them, and doing a lot of the legwork to show you like how character development works and everything like that, that it's actually a really good system to use if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So hopefully they could streamline that even more, just to bring more people that have the physical copies into the fold, and get them acclimated to it so they don't feel like they're getting taken for a ride.
That would be good if people aren't taken for a ride, because then you get more people to hopefully interact and play with it. So
yeah. The other thing that I'm hoping on is that I don't hear the word NFT.
Oh, well, we don't talk about that. Their market's crashing. We're all good.
Yeah, it is. And we take no joy in it at all.
Your background for saying that, you should swap it to just crying bored apes.
Crying bored apes.
Yeah, just on the green screen.
Just crying bored apes.
Since somebody hacked. I don't know if you heard about that.
No.
Oh, it got hacked.
Oh, of course it did.
Mm-hmm.
Like Axie Infinity.
Mm-hmm. I think it was users that owned some of them gave up information or whatever, but... Because, crypto bros are smart.
But I thought the blockchain was secure.
Yeah, I thought digital security was the thing people that cared about crypto really cared about.
How
Anyways, that's
could
not
you
for
make
today.
it happen? That's a whole other weekly Muse or so.
That's a whole other laugh.
Whole other subject. But in the meantime, yeah, so, in short, WOTC purchased D&D Beyond. We're hoping for some good positive changes. Doesn't look like for the end user it's going to make you have to get any new accounts or anything. So that's at least a good thing. We'll see how it works.
We'll check it out after May 18th.
Yeah, I have a D&D Beyond account, so I'll be able to tell you if I notice any major changes.